Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing a bit more of an informal video and it's one of my kind of book discussion type things. So recently I listened to the audiobook of Looking for Alaska by John Green, which is a book I read many years ago. I think I was maybe 15, so probably about a decade ago when I read it. And when I read it, I hated it. And I hated it because it was Manic, Pixie, Dream Girl, the trope. And, well, I didn't hate it, that's actually quite strong. I disliked it for that reason, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And I don't really know why I wanted to re-listen to it, I just got the urge. And upon re-listening, I realised that it's actually trying to subvert the Manic, Pixie, Dream Girl trope. And that's kind of what John Green's work tries to do. So yes, I know I'm late on that. But yeah, and I thought I would talk about subverting tropes and whether or not I think it's successful in the case of Looking for Alaska and kind of how it could be better. So if you don't know anything about Looking for Alaska, I will be spoiling the whole plot in this video, so beware of that. I'm going to give a brief summary now with spoilers, so this is your last chance to click off if you do not know about the book and you want to keep it that way. But Looking for Alaska is about this guy called Miles, and he goes to this boarding school and he meets this group of quirky teenage friends and falls in love with a girl called Alaska. And Alaska has a boyfriend and is the only girl in that group, and that everyone is just kind of, well, not everyone is in love with her. One of the guys is in love with her, but everyone else is in love with her. And Miles kind of fabricates this relationship between them, and it ends up that they kiss, and on the night they kiss, Alaska gets really drunk, kisses him, they make out. It's not just like one kiss, they make out for quite some time. And then she wakes up still drunk, very distressed, gets into her car, drives off, crashes her car and dies. And then the rest of the book is about our main character dealing with her death, dealing with unanswered questions and all that kind of thing. So Alaska is a manic pixie dream girl. She is very outgoing, she drinks a lot, she watches porn, she's like a cool girl, to quote Gone Girls. But she also gets very depressed, she gets very angry, there's times where she just doesn't want to talk to people, and at several points Miles is called out on his behaviour, which is where the subverting the trope comes into it. So at one point she says that he only fancies her when she's fun, cool Alaska, and he can't deal with angry, depressed Alaska, which he concedes is a fair point and is actually true. Post-death, he gets called out several times by the Colonel, who is their best friend. He's the one who's not in love with Alaska. And Miles gets called out basically saying that he's only mourning the Alaska that he thought he knew. He doesn't care about the real her. It's all about their relationship and the fact that they could have gotten together and didn't, and that he has this unresolved thing with her as opposed to who she was as a person. And again, Miles is like, you've got a point. So far so good. John Green is subverting the trope. Congratulations, you're doing well. So the reason that I think I missed it when I was 15, and the reason that I still don't think it's a successful subversion of the trope, because I don't, is that the book isn't about Alaska, the book is about Miles. So we look at the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope. The idea is that this woman comes into a guy's life and she's bubbly and outgoing and usually quite sexually promiscuous, and she turns his whole life around and makes it more interesting and inspires him to be a better person. And actually there's a trend now, particularly with 500 Days of Summer and similar things, that I say now, you know, when all these things were coming out, to subvert those tropes. And the way they subvert them is to make the girl miserable, which is a comment on mental illness, because if you have something like bipolar disorder, for example, often people with bipolar disorder will act in those ways. They'll be very impulsive, they'll be very sexually promiscuous, they'll be very life of the party and let's get drunk and let's do this and let's do that. And then they'll get down and essentially depressed. I don't know why I did inverted commas. But yeah, it's just, that is all valid, and I understand why authors do that, and I'm not saying that is a bad idea. The problem specifically with Looking for Alaska is that it's not Alaska's story, it's Miles's story, and I think about half the book happens after Alaska dies, and her death is still not about her. Even though the Colonel calls out Miles, it's not enough because the narrative is still focused on Miles, and ultimately the impact of Alaska, like the purpose of Alaska is to impact Miles's life in the story, which is the classic Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope. That's what it does. So yeah, I think the reason it fails as a subversion is because even though you have characters saying, but she was a real person, you can't just make her about you, the narrative makes her about him. Like, the only purpose, she only exists through Miles's eyes in the story, and therefore to the reader she's only important in terms of how she affects Miles. So yeah, I just think that it's not a great subversion, and having read some of John Green's other works a long time ago, particularly Paper Towns I think is the other one where it tries to really subvert it, it's not enough. I feel like he's trying to have both the plucky guy who has this relationship with this hot cool girl, and also the hot cool girl is her own person, and you can't just fantasize about her because that's weird. And he tries to play both and it just doesn't work because you're trying to have this story of the hero and just the story of a loser, and it's just not enough. So yeah, I'm trying to think if I have any examples of the subversion of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl done well. The only ones that I can think of off the top of my head is 500 Days of Summer, and I don't know if that's done well particularly. I think it's done maybe better than this. But then again, a lot of people miss the point of that movie, so who knows. And then the other one I can think of is Scott Pilgrim, which I would have been happier if the movie had kept its original ending rather than changing it. Because Scott Pilgrim comes so close to doing it right, and then it just falls at the last hurdle. But yeah, I want to know kind of what your thoughts are about this. How do you feel about the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope? Do you have any examples of it subverted really well? Or if you are a John Green fan or have been a John Green fan, like, what do you think he does well? Why do you think that he does manage to subvert it? I'd love to hear opinions on this. This is just like a rambly video, so I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I just wanted to talk about it because it got me thinking. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. It helps me out massively, and I hope to see you next time.